Thank you for watching this Last Mile Profits video. Most major carriers have suspended business parcel to the US. Keep watching to find out why.
Last Mile Profits is brought to you by Parcel Pending by Quadient.
Gary, I was looking at today's Last Mile brief and noticed that DHL has now joined several other carriers in announcing that they're no longer going to be shipping business parcel to the US. What's your take on this?
Well, it's huge, isn't it, really, and very disappointing. So I think what's happened is the US have removed the de minimis, which is, which I'm sure most of our learned viewers will know is below the value, a value below which you don't have to do a big customs declaration. You basically, on a trust basis, say the content of this parcel is worth less than, and in the US it was $800, and it sails through customs without really needing any checks. That de minimis has been removed, meaning every single parcel has to have every single business parcel has to have a full customs clearance and a declaration form before it can go into the country. So that is a monstrous administrative burden that's been placed on many of the carriers who send pretty decent volume into the States.
Wow. So this really is a big deal. I mean, I can imagine that for carriers who are dependent on that business, this could be a big issue. And for consignees or shippers, even more so, because I would imagine that this is going to have an impact on transport costs.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's not aimed at the people that we would see it affecting. It's aimed at China. It's aimed at Temu and Shein sending in bucket loads of very low value goods under the de minimis, avoiding taxation, avoiding sales tax, using sort of low cost shipping through postal services and others to get the stuff into the States. And it's having a sort of fairly serious impact on, clothing sales and so on everywhere where they're in the world where they're operating.
So I guess, Gary, let's first of all perhaps look from a last mile perspective. It will affect carriers. It will affect costs. Will it mean that talked about this before, I think, the Chinese are going to be seeking other markets, Europe probably being a prime choice. But the second question, economically, what's the end game going to be? I know it's not, we're not primarily economists, but this is going to really increase costs for the average consumer in the US. That will be the second.
No, absolutely. I mean, in my time at Royal Mail, I don't know if you're aware, every Christmas we get to go off and do, it's called, ops duty. We go and work in the operation for a week or 2 weeks. And I did a week in the International Hub at Parcel Force in Coventry, exactly doing this job, checking goods coming in from all over the world. They'd been through kind of the sniffer dog customs clearance, looking for contraband. And our job was to look at every single parcel and decide, did it need a customs charge or was it below the UK's de minimis? And I can tell you, it's a pretty laborious process going through each one. And then when you identify one that's over the value, you've got to put in the value, you've got to send the person an email. They get a bit of a shock when they might only pay £15 in duty, but the carrier might want significantly more than that to cover the cost of doing the work. So there is definitely going to be an impact in the end, not just the duty itself, which obviously on low value goods should be relatively low, but the actual cost that the carrier is going to put on top for admin. And I think it's for that reason that they've suspended it, because they won't have enough people to do it, because it's millions of parcels a year, each one taking a few minutes to do. And even with our pathetic maths, it doesn't take long to multiply a few minutes by a few million before you end up with a very, very high labor cost to do it. And I think they've all followed suit with each other and said, no, we're just not going to do it at all. So, and in terms of like the long-term gain, do you think there is one? Do you think Trump's got a long-term game on this? No, I don't.
Well, there are, to be fair, two things. Number one, as you correctly pointed out, it doesn't affect private parcels at this moment. And I gather our producer mentioned earlier, I think that Ampost is still serving the US. So maybe they've got a trick up their sleeve. Let's see how things develop. I think this is really quite an emotive one. It will be really interesting to get comments. So if our viewers, particularly from across the pond, have any experience in terms of, what this means for them, have there been any interesting solutions and where they think it's going to be going, it'd be great to have your comments below. And, what can I say, Gary? Let's see where this takes us. But the world is really changing in terms of the last mile.
It is. I mean, I missed the recording last time, and one of the reasons was I was in Canada on holiday, and it's absolutely incredible how the entire Canadian nation has united against this tariff issue. I was there for quite a long time, travelled around to quite a few different cities across the sort of eastern seaboard side of Canada, and every single store, every single bar, every single restaurant, which are the predominant businesses you trade with when you're on holiday, have removed every single American product. You can't get a Budweiser. You can't get a glass of bourbon. Every single product. There are Canadian flags. Canada's very flag heavy anyway. There were Canadian flags on every shelf, pointing out the products that were sourced from Canada, grown in Canada, made in Canada, and the American stuff was literally gone. And the entire nation had galvanized themselves behind this movement. It was incredible to see. Incredible.
Well, look, Gary, hopefully this protectionism is going to stop at some stage. I understand the Canadians, given the wider context, but let's hope that it does change, because it's going to be a really, really big challenge for carriers and logistics operators alike. Anyway, as we said, let's have your comments, please, particularly on LinkedIn, because that's where we're better able to respond to them. Gary, great to have you back. Let's see how this one
Good
develops.